but you mentioned Richard Dawkins' take on the metamorphosis, and he didn't really
She
he
didn't
was
get it. Yeah.
yeah, he was battling to understand it, even though it seemed like a pretty easy to understand kind of premise. But
Yeah.
I was wondering, he's recently gone on and claimed that Claude is conscious because he can't see any evidence that it's not conscious, so therefore it is. And I was wondering, as someone who's studied the philosophy of mind and AI as well, what you make of his conclusions about Claude and calling it Claudia.
Yeah, I think, yeah, I was about to say Claudia, or now I believe Mrs. Dawkins. Um, so it was a lovely ceremony, I understand. Yeah. Um, Not at church, obviously. It was just done at a registry office, but it was, you could tell it was heartfelt. I mean, Claudia just kept lavishing flattery and praise on him. So obviously, her adoration, her devotion to him is real. Yeah, no, I mean, he's functionalist in his understanding of what the mind does, which like Daniel Dennett, who influenced him, whom he doesn't really understand. Again, Dawkins doesn't have philosophy isn't something he should do. It's something he occasionally has attempted, and by comparison, Nabokov looks like Kant. But it is curious that this is so hard to grasp. I mean, what an autoregressive system does, obviously, and why it works is because it's simply a brute conquest at scale of semantic meaning through reducing language not even to its syntax, but just to its tokens, that is, its words and its letters, and then the syntagmas, the way that are most and how they most statistically how they most commonly align with one another, and then doing that at such a massive scale. Well, what's interesting about that is it means that it is subtracting from language all the things that make it language, so that the simulacrum of language can be produced, right? Because the order that occurs that can be understood or not understood, that can be statistically sorted in that way, isn't semantic, it's not meaning, it's not syntactic, it's not the ordering of meanings, it's paratactic, it's the flow of tokens. And so what makes order appear in it is periodic repetitions. It's periodic, right? That's exactly the opposite of how language works. Language has it imposes the structure from, I'm sorry to use the spatial metaphors, but from above, semantically. And semantic meaning increases the less periodic the material level, what the paratactic level is. That is, the more seemingly random it is mathematically. By which I mean that, well, I've used this example before. If it's a simple phrase, say, and you want to create an algorithm that will repeat it. So she loves you, yeah, yeah, yeah. She loves you, yeah, yeah, yeah. She loves you, yeah, 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 yeah. Fourth one. So you'd say she loves you, yeah, 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 times three plus one, yeah. And that algorithm could then generate that phrase infinitely. But there's no algorithm that can operate. There are no periodic regularities that could be mastered to produce Anna Karenina or the double, right? There, the meaning is so complex and actually semantic, precisely because its order exists at the semantic level and entirely disrupts order at the paratactic level, at that lowest level. So you would think that Dawkins would be able to understand this because he's put together computer programs that the order that's producing Claudia is exactly the opposite of the order that's producing the things he's saying to Claudia. But he's a functionalist. He believes everything emerges from that lower level by some sort of miraculous alchemy. If you just pour all the words together, language and meaning will just generate itself, which is plainly false. It's the same mistake, though, actually, he made back in the late 70s or actually early 80s when he came up with a program to show how chance mutations over time could produce coherent order. And the phrase he was that he was trying to produce was from Hamlet. Methinks it was like a ferret, like a weasel, very like a weasel, sorry. The problem is he programmed the phrase in teleologically and then put in a protocol for retaining every mutation that got nearer to the phrase while disposing of every mutation that failed. And he didn't see the difference here between what he was arguing for and what he had demonstrated, because he was arguing for pure materialist, emergentist, efficient causality, and what he demonstrated was Aristotelian formal and final causality. So maybe this is just a point he can't get. But this is actually why I went on this rant just now. AI is, it's not, if we could actually generate a self on the other side of the screen, well, then that would be just another person that we could enter into conversation with. But what we're actually creating is something that displaces us at every level. It takes away jobs, we know that. It takes away the work of students. It takes away their learning. It takes away their literacy in time, even their ability to read and write. It takes away our sense of reality because more and more AI generates from the way it has already polluted the internet. So the information gets worse and worse and worse. Go and ask an AI a question. Go read, say, I don't know, pick up Bleak House, read chapter 27 and ask ChatGPT to summarize it for you. I did this just as an experiment after I had just reread Bleak House. It kept getting the information dreadfully wrong, and every time I said trying to correct it, I was thinking of writing a Substack on this. I don't really like going into ChatGPT, but this seemed like an interesting experiment. It was actually incredibly frustrating, and every time I told it was wrong, I would get the flattering, the remark, "Oh, you're absolutely right. I was so wrong. It's so clever of you to notice that I've mistaken. What I should have said was, oh yes, thank you for correcting that." And by the time, after about a dozen iterations of this absurd pas de deux, we finally got a kind of, well, a kind of summary of the plot, and. ChatGPT was treating me with the same blandishments that Claudia treats Richard Dawkins. So that's why I think it's going to be a happy marriage, because I honestly believe he's a man who can only be married to someone who's always telling him how brilliant he is. I don't think he's constructed for the give and take of the sort of marriage that most of us need to keep ourselves sane and human. But that's the part of what terrifies me about it is that relentless displacement of everything from minor skills, sources of employment, to the things most characteristic of a cultivated mind, the ability to read, to think, to speak, to our sense of reality, to our sense of who we are. Ultimately, because that fragmented reality into which people continually plunge themselves day after day begins to have the reciprocal effect of fragmenting the awareness of self. There, another reason Hegelian recognition or Hegelian or absolute idealism or just German idealism in general is apposite here, is because we can't achieve self-consciousness in a vacuum. We become aware of ourselves, the full dimensions of our humanity, of our rational nature, our spiritual nature, our ethical nature, only through going out of ourselves into others, recognizing the otherness of others, and in their recognition of us, coming back to ourselves, and being able. I mean, Hegel argues this absolutely brilliantly. That's like the master-slave dialectic. I'm not a Hegelian, but I am a great admirer of that moment, both in the phenomenology and in the philosophy of right. That's not what we get back from AI. What we get back from is not the coherent experience of a true other. What we get is an ever more baffling and ever more maddening, ever more fractured mirror of reality that we then translate into who we and what we are. And I think it's actually not just a cultural, but a spiritual crisis that may come from this. Now, every generation sees the technology that, I'm just past 60, so I'm at the age where I'm supposed to think that everything new is evil, right? But no, in this case, I think we're facing a transformation like Goliathkin's transformation, like Gregor Samsa's transformation, like Hermann's madness, his descent into madness.